Hi, welcome to the Augmentation of Man with Kent and Renee Miller, where we are bringing the future. And today we're going to be talking about
desirable and undesirable behaviors as seen by the spiritual world.
And so we thought this might be an interesting one for people where we would have an idea of what the spirit world expects of us as far as our behaviors, what they find obnoxious and what they find to be desirable. So we're going to go over those two aspects, desirable versus undesirable. And so you want to start it out?
Well, they'd rather have us on the side of peace of within self and peace around us, rather than fighting in wars and fighting with your neighbors or fighting with your neighborhood or anything in that aspect. Peace implores learning. Fighting implores dysfunction and death.
And with that, it's also a spirit of cooperation versus what is undesirable is an uncooperative spirit. So, and then also what goes with that is the next one, which is
the work ethic.
Accepting
Accepting
others.
others for what they are, who they are, accepting others' opinions. That's how we learn.
And their belief systems, accepting them for their race or their gender. So they also really prize a strong work ethic versus laziness. Laziness they find very disdainful. And so they like to see us busy.
Now, the work ethic doesn't mean going to work. It means it encompasses much more than just going to 8 to 5 job.
Yes. So that encompasses some of the things that we're going to be covering later in this. They want us to appreciate the viewing of animals versus the killing of animals.
Yeah, if you're killing animals just for trophy and not for need, then you're doing wrong.
Yeah, so need would be survival.
Survival.
To eat, to nourish ourselves versus killing for pleasure. They also appreciate beauty versus, not seeing things for the beauty that it holds.
Well, as they say, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder.
Mm-hmm.
So what one person sees in beauty, the other person may not see that same beauty, but you have to understand their opinion and what they see.
Mm-hmm. It's like the desert. Some people they don't find anything beautiful about the desert, but other people do.
Yeah, so it's all in your
perception.
Perception of your parameters, what you see in the beauty around you and what you don't see.
Mm-hmm. So what they really prize is our working within the parameters of the natural world versus trying to control nature, especially total control of nature.
Yeah.
So that includes using
destruction of the natural habitat.
Yeah.
Of things that are here, animals, habitats of different species.
And I would venture to say even, our landscaping, we've got to have these perfectly manicured lawns, but, all our landscaping, which is beautiful, but when we throw out weed and feed, that upsets the balance of things. And that is trying to control nature.
There's nothing wrong with cutting it down, but controlling it is different.
Yeah. If we get out there and we pull the weeds, that is a natural way of controlling it. But what if those weeds are beneficial? What if they're medicinal? Yeah. What if they feed a certain insect or a moth?
Well, you're pulling up beneficial plants that you think is a weed, and it could very well be used as a medicine.
Right. And so we have to look deeper. We have to learn to do our homework before we change things. And the other thing is invasive species changes the natural environment in some areas. So before you plant something invasive, you need to do your homework. So this also includes the use of natural and organic measures instead of the use of chemicals to control everything and alter the natural background environment. So the next, you want to take that one?
Humbleness. Humbleness is a very difficult position for humans to understand and to reflect upon, because humans don't bother with trying to be humble. They're egotistical. They want to be the first of everything, and they want to have everything that they don't need. And the arrogance comes with that attitude.
I think the irony of it all that they find very distasteful is that humanity in general thinks they know it all and that they're so smart, when in reality we are at the lowest of the totem pole when it comes to races and their intellectual abilities. So humanity hasn't learned that yet.
Yeah, I always say the person knows the answers before the question is even asked.
So they really desire our inquisitiveness and our willingness to learn. That is a very prized behavioral aspect versus thinking we know it all and having no desire to learn. And that even includes people who are well educated who think they have figured it all out and close the parameters.
If you have enough money, you've got the answer to everything. You think. You think you have the answer to everything. But respect comes with what we're just talking about.
So respect for
others, respect for their opinions, respect for who they are.
Their belief system.
Not everybody is on the same level.
And so part of our learning is that respect for others and to be able to open up and listen to somebody without trying to shut them down, which is what we see a lot in our world today. And that type of behavior that does not promote natural inquisitiveness, that does not promote open discourse and learning through each other's eyes is very much frowned upon by the spiritual realm.
The spiritual realm likes those that teach, like the videos that TED puts out. They are trying to teach humans.
All teachers.
Something.
No.
Not all teachers.
Well,
I disagree with that.
That's probably true because there are teachers who have agendas. So when we teach, it's not with respect to trying to control somebody's mind.
Or just teaching because they pay good.
It is a true desire to teach with an openness and allowing free will to exist so that for example, when our children were growing up and they were about to make a decision, to teach them the repercussions of those decisions and then allow them the free will so that they make an educated decision. You're not controlling them, but you are educating them, especially in a loving way.
Especially learn from those that are coming from outside of Earth.
Yes, and this is a big concern of outside entities is that they have a lot of technology and knowledge that they are willing to share with us.
If we're willing to learn.
If we're willing to learn and if we have respect for them, because that is one thing that is very much frowned upon, that, that arrogance that we think we know it all. and we don't.
So then there's a such thing as oneness versus individualism, which can also mean, being individualism can also mean a separation from all, from
separateness
of humanity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that goes back to the cooperation, working together in a cooperative spirit and being able to respect one another in spite of differences in our belief
Like
systems.
many technologies today are individualism. They're not for the oneness of all humanity.
Mm-hmm. So their definition of oneness really gets down to our cooperation with each other and working together as one instead of our divisiveness, which you see now.
Which comes back to the free will and controlling.
Mm-hmm.
Free will,
it does.
learning, or controlling others.
Mm-hmm.
That's what both basically the same thing.
And so they value our sharing versus hoarding. And
because hoarding is also not sharing information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sharing of information or hoarding of information. So they really prize the teaching and the learning. That is what creation is all about. And so they really despise when people are controlling information, when they're diverting information, when they're promoting one part of a picture and not giving the entire picture to twist another person's perception of what's happening.
That has to do with ego. I have more information than you have, so I'm more important.
But it also has to do with control over the population.
That's part of the ego.
By controlling their thoughts. We have to really be sharp on our game when it comes to the information that we're getting from particularly the media. So they are very much about our responsible advancement of technology, and we have to highlight responsible. The collider, what is it? The Hadron Collider?
Where science is experimenting, doing different things.
And they
were
value
afraid
that.
they were afraid they were going to make a anti-gravity. The last episode, if anti-gravity was made, it would create a huge black hole there, which would suck in everything.
Yeah, what they said was that humanity has this tendency of not looking forward to their decision making, and they kind of act in a kind of a knee-jerk reaction. And so what they urge us to do is to pull back on our exploration, not to stop exploring, but to pull back and look at the possible roads that this new technology can lead us, and to make decisions that will be of the benefit of this earth and not to harm the earth and other beings.
Experiments by science, not understanding nature, has led to many bad things, different things around the world. Science needs to see what adverse effects something has before they let it loose into another country, which it was never put in that country to begin with. So
that gets back to invasive species.
Right, science destroys everything that was made naturally for a particular place on the earth. And something is going to go totally amiss with that within a short period of time. It could be a virus, it could be almost anything, but scientists will end up causing huge demand upon humans that may give up a large part of the human population.
So this also, what is desirable is honoring free will versus controlling others, which I think we touched on already. Sharing information versus controlling information and deception.
Yeah. They like us to be as healthy as we can be. That would be eating the proper things, keeping ourselves somewhat fit, not overeating junk foods and things that taste good but are not good for the human body. They don't like people that are lazy, not doing nothing, living off of somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
and not adding to society. Those are all things that most people don't like. There's no accountability for laziness.
They like our determination versus giving up too early. We do have to recognize when we're trying to push something too prematurely, if the timing isn't right or that it's not meant to be. But to just early on give up is not considered a good behavioral trait. And to go with that is strength versus weakness and fear. So weakness and fear are really frowned upon. They like to see our strength and perseverance.
Yeah, so I was told through meditation that fast foods is not that good for you.
We already know
And
that.
I also said red meat. I was told in meditation that red meat is not good for you. I'm sorry for you great steak eaters, but that's what I was told. So,
and the reason why
but chicken is good and fish is good.
They really mention fish a lot.
Yeah.
And fruits and vegetables and the ancient grains. What they really stress is that our diets have changed significantly in modern times. We've introduced foods into our diet that never were there before.
There's no nutrition to them.
And so the junk food and the snacks, there's no nutrition in it. But also, beef is a relatively new addition to our diet.
Yeah, buffalo isn't.
Buffalo isn't, but they discourage red meat. And even
meat,
the health community has been saying red meat. I guess buffalo would be considered red meat. So they encourage us to go back to the way that we ate in ancient times. So it would be legumes, beans.
Yeah, but people ate buffalo. They also ate a lot of fruit, naturally off the tree, and roots and things like that offset the buffalo meat. Today we eat beef and nothing else has any nutrition.
They really discourage us from eating beef. And GMOs, that's a new one.
We can have pork, chicken, fish.
So getting on to GMOs.
Oh, GMOs, yeah.
This is, not only is it a modern food, we have altered the natural genetic background of our food. And so this is also discouraged. So they like us to see, they would like to see us eating legumes, fruits, vegetables, the chicken, fish.
You know, I like something with more taste, but Renee makes me eat legumes more.
They're good for you.
Yeah.
They've got lots of fiber, keeps your cholesterol down. So it gets down to eating with nutrition in mind versus just eating anything just to please yourself.
And you can't just change today, eat steak, tomorrow, I'm going to cut out. You've got to change a little of your time. It's like getting your body used to this change that you're going to, not all at once.
And you have to adapt to it. Your taste will adapt. You will come to like foods that you didn't gravitate to before, but it takes a while. You have
I'm
to
gonna like
eat it.
grass. I'm gonna no, no.
Okay.
But
And
but you can actually have recipes that takes the food that doesn't have a lot of taste and make it fairly tasty.
and spices make it tasty, but a lot of spices are also good for us. They're herbal medicine. So for example, cinnamon helps to lower your blood sugar. There's lots of things that we can add to food to make it tasty, but also helps us nutritionally and in our health.
You don't use as much sugar and things. We use
Cut back
some
on the
alternate
sugar.
sugars, like was it monkey fruit?
Monk fruit.
Monk fruit, monk fruit sugar, and then there's alternate sugars.
There's stevia,
There's a lot.
erythritol. There's other natural sugars that don't have calories, and they're still natural. You can satisfy that need for some sweetness without it being overly sweet and without adding the extra calories and putting on the pounds.
Yeah. And I never liked tofu. Never touched tofu. And we decided to try it. Renee made a chocolate pudding out of the tofu. And it was pretty good. I gotta admit, that's the only way I'll eat tofu now.
It was pretty easy. You just throw it in the blender with the powdered chocolate. No, actually it's not powdered. It's melted dark chocolate and a little vanilla and a little bit of maple syrup. And it has to all be at room temperature. And you just, blow it up in the blender, and it makes a real decent chocolate pudding. And I use I put also erythritol or stevia or monk fruit sweetener in it, so it doesn't have sugar. Now, they encourage exercise, but exercise can be as simple as walking. And that's one of the most recommended types of exercise that we've received from our guides. So you
20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes of walking.
Yeah. And some weights, to keep the muscles tone and strengthen.
Yeah, just some light, some 5, 8 pound weights. You don't need these huge weights. Go to the gym, get your little weights.
Men should have probably more than that, but for women, 8 or 10 pounds is good enough. You want to keep your strength. It supports your skeletal system. So as we age, we don't start having all these skeletal issues. We look younger because we're toned, because it gets the blood flow going to the skin. You have a healthier looking skin.
Yeah, you don't want to hang your skeleton in the closet yet. So kindness. How does kindness affect you on all this? Versus harsh and viperous speech.
Viperous is a term that our spiritual guides use.
Yes, because when you do viperous speech, how do you feel afterwards? How do you feel later on? You can't really feel good, but you do kindness to someone and not take the recognition for it, but just do a kindness to another entity. It makes you feel good for a lot longer.
For being nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And viperous is like the viper, like the snake that strikes out and bites somebody. Just to clarify what the intent of the use of that word is. They cherish our introspection, meditating, and coming to know self versus our casting blame onto others, lack of introspection, and lack of coming to understand who we are at our core, who our soul is. And that is part of the objective of this learning in the 3rd and 4th dimensions. So You want to take the next one?
Expanding horizons versus redundant behaviors, including the redundancy of war. And boy, have we been in redundancy of war.
We have to learn the vibration of war. So a lot of people
You don't have any respect for
think-
others when you go to war.
Yeah. A lot of people think that we should be living in a utopian society, but
Yeah.
at this basic level of understanding, remember, we're kindergartners as far as the universe is concerned. And so we're learning the basics of things. So we have to learn certain things that are perceived as negative, and they are negative, but we have to learn them. So we have to learn the vibration of war.
Yeah, you see in kindergartners when they're both trying to take the same object, and they say, "This is mine. This is mine." A lot of adults are like that. This is mine, and that's what the problem is today.
And so eventually what happens is that we learn these lessons, and it's time to grow up and move on into first grade. And that's where we're at today. And we're coming to the close of a grand cycle of learning, and we're starting a new higher cycle of learning, which is the next grade up. Now, let's get into abuse of mind-altering substances.
Drugs, too much alcohol, inability. You lose your ability to learn when you get into these particular things, and the drugs can be prescribed or unprescribed.
Yeah, and even natural. Even though marijuana is natural and it has its place, it's not something to be abused. And so what they want to see is that our mind is clear, that we're able to process our lessons, we're able to do our introspection and to grow. And we just can't do that when we're constantly under the influence of a drug or alcohol.
Yeah, marijuana and a lot of other drugs were used in medical many years ago. They have its place in that community, not for everyday use and entertainment.
Finally, we want to get down into want versus need. We've covered this before, but many of you are probably new to seeing our videos. And so this fits into the topic of frugality versus materialism, consumerism, the unusual focus on money and gain of wealth, and self-indulgence, which are all considered very negative aspects of humanity. It gets back to, what do you need versus what do you want? And what you want may be in excess of what you really need. And so we'd like to finish with just saying, give this some thought, contemplate this, do some introspection.
Think about
it, and how you can start through your own introspection, realizing the areas where you can change your perspective and start to shift in a direction that the spiritual world finds to be a desirable behavior.
Yeah, you do a little at a time. You can't do it all at once.
That's right.
You start and I'm going to change this, or I'm going to change that, a little at a time, till you find that what you've changed is a pattern, and pattern to a different direction.
And you will get there. Again, we have 2 books in the Augmentation of Man series, A Study in Renaissance and The Acquiescence of Humanity. They're available on Amazon, and we have given our interpretations to the actual dictated lessons that were received by the ancients and other higher beings of higher realms of understanding. So you can check that out on Amazon. You can also check it out on our website, which we give some food for thought on our website, and that is at verdience.com, and that's with V.
Yeah, there's no chemicals in that food.
Peace be with you on your journey to enlightenment, and have a great day. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell.